You think your job is hard. Long hours, demanding deadlines. That annoying coworker who never refills the coffee machine. You drag yourself out of bed every morning wondering if this is all life has to offer. Now imagine this. It's 4 in the morning. The year is 1347. You're standing knee-deep in a pit of human excrement, the stench so overwhelming that you've tied a cloth soaked in vinegar around your face. But it does nothing. Your hands are raw, bleeding from the night's work. Above you, a wealthy merchant sleeps soundly, never knowing your name, never caring that you exist. This is your job. This is how you survive. Welcome to Filth of History. Today, we're descending into the absolute worst occupations that medieval Europe had to offer. Jobs so revolting, so degrading that they make your worst Monday morning feel like a vacation in paradise. But here's the thing. Someone had to do them. And the stories of these people reveal more about medieval society than any castle or cathedral ever could. Let's begin. We're starting with what sounds like the most humiliating job imaginable. The Groom of the Stool. This was the person responsible for assisting the King of England with his bathroom needs. Yes, you heard that right. Their primary duty was to be present when the monarch defecated, wipe the royal backside, and inspect the results for signs of illness. Imagine your job description including the phrase, must be comfortable analyzing the texture and color of fecal matter. But here's where it gets interesting, and frankly, bizarre. Did you know this was actually one of the most prestigious positions in the entire kingdom? The Groom of the Stool had unlimited access to the king during his most vulnerable moments. They heard state secrets, influenced royal decisions, and became trusted confidants. Henry VIII's grooms became some of the wealthiest men in England. They received land grants, titles, political appointments, all because they were willing to get up close and personal with the royal bowels. In Tudor England, proximity to power meant everything, and you couldn't get much closer than this. While nobles fought for a few minutes of the king's attention in court, the groom spent hours with him daily in the most private setting imaginable. The position was so influential that men actively competed for it. Think about that. The aristocracy of England, scheming, plotting, bribing their way into a job that involved handling someone else's excrement. But prestige doesn't change the reality of the work. The smell, the indignity, the knowledge that your entire career, your family's fortune, hinged on your ability to service one person's digestive system. That's medieval economics for you. Power wasn't clean. It never has been. 2. The fuller. From the palace to the workshop. Let's talk about the fuller, the person responsible for cleaning and preparing wool for the textile industry. Sounds innocent enough, right? Wrong. The secret ingredient in medieval wool processing was urine, human urine. Collected in massive quantities from public urinals and chamber pots throughout the city, then aged until it became sufficiently pungent. Why urine? The ammonia breaks down the natural oils and grease in wool, creating a chemical reaction that cleans and softens the fibers. It's actually brilliant chemistry. But the process? Absolutely revolting. Fullers would spend 12 to 14 hours a day standing in these vats, trampling cloth with their bare feet in what was essentially aged, fermented piss. The ammonia burned their skin, created chemical lesions on their legs and feet. Many fullers developed chronic respiratory problems from inhaling the fumes day after day, year after year. Did you know that fullers' urine was considered so valuable that it was actually taxed by Emperor Vespasian in ancient Rome? The practice continued through the medieval period. There were professional urine collectors who would go door to door, paying small amounts for chamber pot contents. The smell was so pervasive that fullers could be identified just by walking past them on the street. They were often segregated to specific neighborhoods, downwind from the wealthy districts. Their children were bullied, their marriages arranged within their own profession because no one else would have them. And yet, the textile industry was the backbone of the medieval economy. Every piece of cloth you wore, every tapestry and every castle passed through a fuller's urine-soaked hands. Beauty built on degradation. Progress fueled by suffering. 3. The Night Soil Man. Midnight. The city is asleep. But beneath the cobblestones, beneath the houses, the cesspits are full, and someone needs to empty them. Enter the Night Soil Man. Medieval cities didn't have sewage systems. Waste accumulated in pits beneath privies, sometimes for years. When they filled up, when the smell became unbearable, when sewage started seeping into wells and living spaces, the Night Soil Man was called. They worked exclusively at night to avoid offending public sensibilities. Using buckets, shovels, and their bare hands, they would descend into these pits and manually remove decades of accumulated human waste. The methane gas could kill you. The diseases lurking in that filth could destroy you slowly. One slip, one fall into that pit, and you might drown in sewage before anyone could pull you out. There are documented cases of night soil men being overcome by toxic fumes and collapsing into the waste, dying there in the dark while the city slept above them. They were paid slightly better than common laborers, but the social stigma was immense. They were considered ritually unclean in many communities, forbidden from entering churches, excluded from guilds and public gatherings. Some cities required them to carry bells or wear specific clothing so people could avoid them on the street. They were essential. They were despised. They lived in the literal and metaphorical margins of society, doing the work that kept plague and cholera at bay. Invisible guardians against epidemic, rewarded with contempt. 4. The Leech Collector. Medicine in medieval Europe was, let's call it, experimental. Bloodletting was considered a cure for almost everything, which meant there was massive demand for leeches, medical leeches, and someone had to collect them. The leech collector would wade into stagnant swamps, marshes, and ponds, then stand perfectly still while leeches attached themselves to their bare legs. The human body as bait. They'd let dozens of leeches feed, swelling with blood, before carefully removing them and placing them in containers for sale to physicians and barber surgeons. Then they'd wade back in and repeat the process. Did you know that a single leech can consume up to 5 times its body weight in blood? Now imagine allowing 30, 40, 50 of them to feed on you simultaneously, multiple times a day. The blood loss was significant. Leech collectors were often anemic, weak, perpetually dizzy. But the real danger was infection. Every bite was an open wound, and those swamps were breeding grounds for bacteria and parasites, skin infections, blood poisoning, tetanus, all occupational hazards. Some collectors developed allergic reactions to leech saliva, breaking out in painful rashes that covered their entire lower bodies. Others contracted diseases from the stagnant water itself, typhoid, dysentery, parasitic worms that would live in their intestines for years. The pay was minimal. The work was constant, because medicine's thirst for leeches was insatiable and someone had to feed it, quite literally.